Anna,
Hello,
welcome
hello.
to the
I'm gonna
stream
try
again.
again. Thank you so much, Nikola. Hopefully people can hear us now. It was a
Okay,
just a bit of a tech issue, but I would do the same on my own channel. I'm a boomer, that's why I have a boomer account, but
good.
hopefully it's working.
Thank you, Dirk. All right, looks like we are live now. All right. Sorry, guys, for the technical difficulties. Let me. It's very good to see you again. Again, Anna, how was? So, what's? Anna has been very much involved with PogChamps. So, tell us what you think about PogChamps.
I find it a fascinating event. I just I so loved watching the first edition, and now that I'm part of the second one as coach, and I'll be on the official show tomorrow and on Friday, uh, it's front row seat for watching these epic gamers and streamers battle it out against each other. And I'm amazed by how dedicated and hardworking most of them are when it comes to chess improvement, and how much progress they have made within just a span of few weeks' time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's. I have to say that I'm very impressed by the event. It's, you know, let me say this. In many ways, I wanted one of the things I wanted as part of Open Field Media and everything else. I wanted chess on Twitch to grow, and there we are. It's definitely growing, and it's this is not. The thing here is that watching people who have just started playing chess make such enormous progress in such a short time is genuinely impressive.
It is
So,
at
yeah,
any field, learning something. With being a beginner, most of these players only knew how the pieces move. We taught them how to castle, what are the opening principles, how to develop your pieces. We started
yeah,
from a very zero beginner level, basically, and look where they are. It's incredible.
yeah, it really is. All right, so Drake is suggesting that a whip should be left in the closet. So I'm not sure about that, but thanks, Dirkie, for this.
I
So
appreciate the suggestion, but
yeah,
I'm afraid it's against the rules. But
yeah,
we do have a historically important game. Well, I guess all of the Linares tournaments basically were so famous, so renowned, so strong every year. The If you guys have followed somewhat chess history, then Linares was one of the top spots for super tournaments.
still is.
Mm. And we're gonna go back all the way to 1985 to witness a game between. I'm gonna say the names, and I have a bit of a fear that you know the game, but I'm just hoping you don't know the moves all by heart, because even if you know the game, there's a lot
Okay.
to analyze. So I just hope that you didn't analyze this 10 hours in your spare time, Nikola. But it's between Ljubomir Ljubojevic with the
Okay.
white pieces and Viktor Korchnoi with the black pieces.
Okay. don't recall the game, so that's
Excellent.
good. I was
It
worried that
is.
you were going to say Dubojevic and Tony Miles, which is one of my favorite games.
I was looking at
But
that
yeah,
also as an option, but I was like, no, Nicola will know this for sure.
okay, all right. So Ljubojevic is white, very good.
Yes.
Incidentally, Ljubojevic is one of my idols. He was the strongest chess player in Yugoslavia as I was growing up. And I have to admit that I played a game in Simul against him. I think it was in late 80s, early 90s. And I did what I usually do, which is I had one position and then I managed to lose thereafter. I mean, he
Oh,
swindled me in the rook ending. I messed it up. So, but he's a great guy. He's spent lots of time in Spain, like Anna. And anyway, I'll shut up and let's look at the game. And of course, Anna chooses French defense. What a surprise
it
there!
is. It is a French defense game, Ljubojevic, with the white pieces. I also had the pleasure of meeting him. I met both Ljubojevic and later Viktor Korchnoi. I got to talk to Ljubojevic. He's very friendly.
He is.
He was
He is.
he lives. I think he still lives in Linares.
Yeah.
Uh, and lots of times the Spanish championships, the Spanish league finals were
Yes.
organized in Linares, and he would always come and watch the games every afternoon and talk to us about the games. He's still super passionate about chess and just a chess enthusiast himself, of course.
I actually have a story about Korchnoi. Viktor Korchnoi played a candidates final in 1978 in Belgrade against Boris Spassky. And he stayed in a hotel called Metropole that still exists, that is right at the edge of the park, a major park in Belgrade that's called Tashmaiden. And my mother and I had an apartment on the opposite edge of that thing. So I think we were in Metropole once, and we ran into Korchnoi. And Korchnoi was never not someone that's he didn't come across as calm. He was obviously a dissident, and he was constantly looking over his shoulder. And but and I almost thought I was 11 years old at the time, and I was, my thing were not autographs. These days I wish I did.
Oh,
But I remember rooting for him when he was playing against Karpov in Baguio shortly thereafter. He won the final, and the final was pretty messy, and all sorts of funny things were happening. So anyway, that's a long story. Hey,
it's
Frank
great that you
Rutten.
met him as a kid, just
Yeah,
nearby your
correct.
apartment.
Yeah, I actually, remember Spassky hitting on my mother.
Whoa, 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 whoa! That's a different story.
No, what was very funny that he did, and he was in a different hotel in Belgrade, and the hotel was called Excelsior, which I don't think exists anymore. But he was with his wife, and his wife was sitting at the table, but he stood up and was very kind and courteous to my mom, who was a
Oh,
very good-looking woman.
I can imagine.
So yeah,
What a story.
I remember being 11 and being admittedly somewhat surprised. Sorry about the phone. You know, but yeah, he did that. So anyway, God bless him. He had a different wife for every cycle at that particular time.
Oh,
So
I see.
anyway, I'm sorry. That's this different time, different eras. So.
Yes, yeah. They're still a great
Did I
chess
manage
player,
to make
and
Anna uncomfortable? I think I did. Sorry, Anna, about that. So
no, no, no.
anyway,
It's all right. It's all right. I feel bad for your mom.
no, my mom didn't mind, believe me. So all right. Anyway, moving on. So Ljubevich is white, and I'm playing for the. Thanks, Dirk. Don't give Anna any ideas. Dirk has decided that he is going to get me into trouble. First he arranged the match against Lara Jaževic at Chiquita single-handedly, and now he's giving Anna ideas. Okay, 16 lashes I can probably take, so thanks. Hey, my prayer, my friend, it's very good to see you. All right,
Very good to see you.
thanks.
This is the position we're going to start with just to start our discussion in terms of the French defense. Are you familiar with this variation of the French defense, Nicola?
I actually don't, I don't play Vinaver,
Yeah.
because I tried when somebody played Bishop B4, I usually switch into French exchange.
Mm-hmm.
I take on D5 here, but yes, I've played this before. But these days, I don't want to go into Vinaver.
Yeah. So earlier you did play this
Yes,
variation sometimes, and you must have seen games
yeah, I've
where this
played
line
games like
happens.
this. Yes.
Yeah. So queen g4, attacking the g7 pawn, as black has given up the dark squared bishop. This is vulnerable. Castle, and this is a lengthy line. Basically, this is theory for a very long time. All of these are forcing moves. And after g6, queen h4, c4, bishop p2, queen a5, Ljubojevich played bishop to d2 to protect the pawn on c3.
Okay.
And now knight f5. Let's start thinking because we're gonna mainly focus on white's position, but this game has lots of twists and turns, so sometimes you also need to be thinking of it from black's perspective. But if you were to play this position as white, even if you don't know theory and any other model games, where do you think that queen should go?
Um, where do I think the queen should go? Okay, that's a
Mm-hmm.
very good question. I think somebody somewhere told me that the right place for queen in French defense is on h3.
Hmm.
And that kind of makes sense because I think at some point we want to play g4 and kick that knight away. So that's, and then, yeah, can black play something like e5? We can play g4 and still kick the... So it's not that the queen has that many spots, right?
True.
So basically the choices are this, or this, and yeah, we can play this, which is probably can be eliminated immediately. I would play queen h3.
Mm-hmm. Why did you say queen f4 can be eliminated immediately? The reason behind it is...
Going into a possible pin doesn't appear appealing. I might be wrong.
Do you see any immediate refutation to it? Now I'm curious from black's perspective, queen to g4 or queen f4, those two. Let's
Well,
look at both of those.
all right, this is when Anna gets me into trouble, guys. Or I
And
get myself into
I'm happy
trouble.
about it. Very
All right, so
happy.
I go this. I mean, can't I just grab on d4?
True. Queen f4 refuted. What about queen g4?
Okay. So
That
much
was
for
quick.
queen. All right. So that was a tease. Okay. Queen g5. I don't see a direct refutation, and you're threatening f4. Um, hmm. I mean, there is the possibility of playing knight d6 and then rook f5 and kicking the queen out.
Oh, you're talking about queen g5.
Yes.
Yeah, so I meant queen f4 and queen to g4. What's wrong
Oh,
with queen
g4.
g4? Yeah.
Okay. Um, I can play e5 and then do the same jump. I can do e5 and then exploit this thing.
Exactly. Very
And
good.
the difference between queen g4 and queen h3 is that if e5, I can play g4.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually, in all honesty, the reason I picked h3 here in the first place.
Very good job. Yes, that's a huge difference between queen g4 and queen h3, that you have the option of pushing g4. So those queen h3 is one of the main options here, and queen g5 is the other one. Those are the only two moves that make sense here. Every other move loses material for black. Ljubojevich went for queen to g5.
Okay.
But with a very similar follow-up plan, because
Okay.
after bishop d7, now that I have said a very similar follow-up plan, what do you think he played?
Well, getting rid of that knight on f5 is, I think, essential if white is going to attack. Here is a quick question. Does white want to castle in this position?
Good question. What do you think?
And I think the answer is actually no. You can, but I think this might be one of those positions in which if king needs to go somewhere, it can go to f1, and instead of castling, we keep the rook on h1.
Mm-hmm.
I might be dead wrong here, but that would be my instinct.
Very good instinct. Very good instinct.
Okay. So the question here is, do we play h4 first or a g4 first?
Mm-hmm.
If we play g4, where is that knight going? That knight is going to... It needs to go to d6. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is one of those situations in which very easy for white to overextend it himself or herself. Ljubovich being Ljubovich, I would assume he would play g4.
G4 it is.
Okay.
How would you describe his playing style? You said that knowing you well, it's G4.
He is... he's an aggressive player. He is a player a little bit in the style of Garry Kasparov.
Mm-hmm.
He likes the initiative. He is not afraid to sacrifice material for initiative. And I don't want to... Hey, Chess. Hey, Daniel. It's very good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, I think he's an attacking player, basically.
Yeah, and G4 is a really aggressive attacking move.
Yeah. Hey, Sepper, my friend. It's very good to see you. Thank you. And hey,
Shout out to
Aroni.
Half Believer too for the 6 months already, a long time. When did you start your channel? Has it been 6 months? Has
It's
Half
been
Believer
6
had all
months.
the
I think
months?
Hope Believer is one of the founders in my channel. So
Yep,
yeah.
6 months subscription there.
Wow. Good. Congratulations, Half Believer. So G4, 96.
And now what?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, if we play h4, then this knight e4 thing is on a modicum of a little being annoying, right?
Yeah.
And how, do we... I'm not sure. That's actually a very good question. Hey, Road to GM 3000. Thank you for the host. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you, sir. Well, here's the question. I don't think there is an effective way to defend, to prevent knight e4 if we're that afraid of it. There is really not that,
We kind of told Black, go for it if you want to.
Yeah. So basically knight e4. Oof, this looks on its way to become quite messy. All right, so basically we need to ignore it. And if we are ignoring it and we're allowing knight e4, then we're allowing the black to take on d2. Are we then going to play king d2? But then king d2 runs, oh God. I mean, this is Ljubovich. He played h4. I can almost guarantee that.
He did.
Yeah.
And he doesn't care about any of that danger that you mentioned, that after knight e4, we need to go somewhere with the queen. There aren't too many squares again.
Yeah, and now we have basically, am I not mistaken, we basically have two places to go.
Yep. How do you see those two?
Or e3?
Which one is the right one?
Well, e3
or
defends...
are they both good?
a3 defends c3, but on the other hand, it stops the attack. Queen h6 threatens h5, and it starts a mating attack. And if... hey, Chess Vidovi, it's very good to see you. Let's give a quick shout out to Chess Vidovi. It's good to see you here. Please give give him a follow. And hey, Aaron Goal, it's good to see you. You know what? This is Ljubovic. He played Queen H6.
He almost he went back
Okay,
to
so he
e3 in this
didn't.
case because
So he played Queen E3. All right, so even Ljubovic can be cautious sometimes. Okay.
yeah. And what do you think is the reason? So what would you now we're gonna turn the tables and see how would you continue here as
It's
black?
fine. It's a little scary. You take one. You can. Oof. Okay. Oh, Theogantus, thank you. Here is
Oh,
water.
important.
I'm hydrating. Ooh, yeah, okay, I see. Oh, thanks, Jess Fredovi, for the sub. That's very greatly appreciated, my friend. Thank you. Let me think for a second. Well, queen I was thinking of taking this and then taking this, but the queen defends the bishop.
Mm-hmm. True.
But, so that might be pushing it. So that doesn't look promising, but let me say this. Taking here,
Mm-hmm.
and what do we take with? We can take with a queen, but then then black even has time to do something like put the rooks here and threaten this knight, and if this knight gets taken, then there are lots of nastiness. There is this pawn is pinned, so this pawn is being threatened, and you almost have a feeling that white position is going to collapse quickly.
So your move would be
Yeah, the famous last question. It's the question of concrete line.
Mm-hmm.
What's the concrete line here? All right, let me think for a second. I have a couple of useful captures here. I can capture on d2.
Mm-hmm.
I probably don't want to capture on c3 because that drives me to a pin. I can play something along sides of e5.
Mm-hmm.
Chess for Ovi is actually, of course, you can ask a question. Would you ever think about plans like knight g5, knight g5, queen g5, play h5, and knight c6 ever moves, then bishop c4, and then the fact that pawn on c4, if the queen of g5 is being this. That,
But with the knight still being on c6, the queen is protected.
I mean, Ovi mentioned that it's if knight on c6 moves. Okay.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that part. Yeah, in that case, yeah. But black does not have to move
no,
it,
that's a good plan. It's just that this, Anna flipped on me, so I'm now black.
Yeah, so now we need to try to find good moves for black.
Right.
We're gonna be turning the tables from time to time. So now let's think from black's perspective how to continue.
Every time possible. Let me put it that way. Okay, so here is a real interesting question. No. Hey, there's Anticat. It's very good to see you. Thank you for joining us. All right, so let me go back to the candidate moves. Candidate moves is here. Candidate moves is this. Candidate move is this. And Theogantos, this is a game played between Ljubomir Ljubovic versus Viktor Korchnoi in one of the Linares tournaments. Okay. I'm not sure getting rid of getting rid of this knight for this bishop. I don't think it's a good exchange.
Mm-hmm.
And in many cases, these moves are not mutually exclusive. In other words, that can be a sequence of moves to play
Mm-hmm.
this and this.
Yes.
So if I think safe move is to just play rook a f8 and ask white how is white gonna defend that knight.
Exactly. Very logical. You're
Yeah.
bringing the last piece into the game that Rook
No.
was not doing anything on A8. Immediate threat, as you said, the knight on F3. And unfortunately for White, you can't really jump away because there's issues on F2 as well. Um, 95 can be calculated, but doesn't look like that knight and queen alone will do miracles when all of the black pieces are in action. So White is lacking development. His king safety too will be a question if there will be issues on the f5. So rook f8 is the strongest move. The only way to protect the knight is rook h3.
Yep.
And here in this position, there are multiple good moves for black because of the miscoordination between white's pieces. Which one would you go for? What would be a follow-up here for you as
Yeah.
black?
And hey, Lali, it's very good to see you. And yes, Teogantas Ljubojevic was definitely a very underrated GM. He was actually number 3 player in the
Yep.
early part of Karpov and Kasparov era, I think, from in the early 1980s. And so yeah, so anyway, and yeah, Bad Cap Joe Korchnoi was great in the French defense. Let me ask you this: we can basically follow this up with e5, right? That was one possibility, and that appears to be a fairly strong move.
Yes, very strong
So
move.
that would be my first candidate move in this position. It opens up the bishop and so on. I actually don't see a better move than that, Anna, to be quite frank. So that's the move I would play. And it's a natural continuation of the plan that begin with rook a f8. So e5.
Exactly. E5 is the most forcing move. Um, and I think it's a very strong one. It's mm, one of the top moves of the engine. Funnily enough, other top moves of the engine are moves that don't even create an immediate threat. So that just goes to show how bad White's position is. If a move like rook to g7, rook to e7 are almost as strong as e5 because White's position is just plain bad.
Yep. Yep.
So even if you don't go for the straightforward line, White is struggling, and it doesn't look like White can solve it with a tempo or two because where is the White king going? How will you bring the a1 rook into the game when the a3 pawn is always hanging? There are many questions here. So yeah, very bad position, but e5 is the most forcing. Good job. Very good job.
Good evening, Monsieur Renard. And yes, Sapper e5 is the move I would play. And I don't think it's hashtag go is still to time to resign, but that's an unpleasant position. And yeah, I don't like that rook on h3, but then what else? What other options do you have?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what options does white have here? I mean, black
After
plays.
knight e4, this is where we deviate in the game. So even Ljubojevic, who is a very aggressive attacking player, didn't go for queen h6 because of what we have seen.
Yeah, so
Simply
you
doubling
played.
rooks and
So you
e5.
played queen e3. Okay.
He did.
Okay,
Queen e3.
understood. Okay.
And now after queen e3, what would be logical here for black?
I think the same plan still applies, Anna, right? I mean, rook on rook from a to f8, and then e5 is still, it's still strong, I would think.
It is. It's very strong. And if you were to evaluate this position, what would be your intuition saying who is doing better here?
I would definitely prefer to play black position. Though, as Theogantus is saying now, there is a knight g5 with a tempo, but Theo with, yeah, the black can probably take on f2 then, right? If knight g5, and then
Mm-hmm.
take, then what is the follow-up there? Take on
Yep.
e4, take on e2, take, it's you know
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think
Very
knight
good.
g5, I think knight queen sorry, the rook f2 is pretty strong.
Exactly. Very good job. So knight g5 cannot be played. Ljubojevich went for h5 instead. Of course, if he already started with this idea g4 h4, he better continue and see if it can work out. What shall black do in this position? Because we're gonna be constantly changing which perspective we are looking at it from.
Okay, so all right, yes, moving Dutchman, that's there. All right, so what are the candidate moves here? Candidate move number one is, you know, we really should be wary about allowing this, because any kind of this exchange, and the tables are going to turn on us.
Exactly.
So you know my gut, if this is a bullet game, I would play g5. Exactly, Batcave Joe, I agree with you. Chess would always say rook f3, bishop f3, takes. Hold on, let me see. So it says rook f3, bishop f3, takes, um, takes, queen d2, rook f3, and then knight d4. Okay, that's actually interesting. The only problem is that after knight d2, I can take with a queen. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or can I take with a queen? I can't take with a queen.
Let's do this calculation one more time.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Hold on. All right. So, rook f3, bishop f3. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Knight d2. And if I take with a queen, the bishop is gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to play queen d2, and then this. So I can take here, and then I can take. I can take with a queen,
Mm-hmm.
but then this bishop is falling again. The problem is, then in that line, I can probably take on g6, and I'm threatening some nasty stuff on h8.
Mm-hmm. And what's the material count in that line?
Um, it's actually, black sacrifices an exchange, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. But here is a question. If he takes on c3 in exchange, queens, I'm going to stay with two rooks against a bishop and a few pawns, and white should be better, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's that's a crazy line, but I'm not sure it works.
Yeah, we can play at those moves
Okay,
to double check what you calculated.
sure. All right, so rook f3, bishop f3, knight d2, king d2, rook f3, queen f3, knight d4, and that's basically, um, yeah, I mean, I don't need to take, but there are no real threats. Did I miss something, Ovi? It's a
This is the
crazy.
one I calculated too. Let's see if our audience says anything other than this.
Yeah. I mean, I have 2 exchanges up, and you know, I mean, I can play this, and then what does black do here? Right.
With the knight hanging and g6 in the air.
Yeah.
Who's attacking here?
Yeah. Okay. Hey, Lally, it's very good to see you. No. Chess with Ovi, please. The whole point here is that everybody should participate. Not at all. It's you know, not no, this
Yeah.
is for everybody to participate. That's
Exactly. Thank you so much for your contributions.
Yeah. No, thank you. No. But I think it's we can. I mean, it's a beautiful line. It almost works.
Almost works, yes.
All right. So all right, but that doesn't work. So
Queen
e3, and I'm
rook
black.
a f8, h5, and we'll still need to figure out how to react to this pawn push.
Okay, bullet game. I'm playing g5. But that's too. Is it deadly? No, I can play rook g7. Is it a good move? Maybe not. Okay, so that's candidate move number 1. Candidate move number 2 is something like a rook move, like rook g7. That might be a little bit passive. There is a crazy move, rook f4. Which
F4.
Is actually crazy.
Why is it crazy?
Or, black can ignore white and basically say you got nada and just play e5.
What do you think? Is this threat of h takes g6, queen h6 a strong one?
It is.
It is. That is very scary.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we can't allow it. So that means we need to play rook g7. I mean, a rook f4 is interesting, but may not be, and if we play g5, knight takes, rook f2. That's actually a better version. But then, Okay. So we cannot allow hg6.
At least not as it is right now, yeah? Because if h takes h6, queen h6, that's an issue.
That's game over. Okay. We cannot defend the threat on h8. However much our rook f4 is tempting, it still allows to take on g6. And opens the h file. I think we kind of need to count on these 2 pawns to protect the black king.
Okay, how would you do that?
So we can play g5.
What's the line that you're considering after g5?
It takes rook f2. And that actually kind of works.
So g5, knight takes, rook takes f2.
Yeah.
What shall I do in that position?
Okay. Good question. It can't open the H file. It can take the knight on E4.
Knight takes e4. Black
Mhm.
has to take back.
Yeah, so it's takes, and I guess you have to take, and then white needs to decide whether it makes sense to get the queen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Black can also interpose rook e2. Oh boy, this is messy. Okay. All right. All right. Let okay. Let me rewind here.
Yes, so we have been calculating g5.
Yeah, that's actually been a threat of taking on c4 for some time.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, the only reason that's not feasible here is because that leaves knight on f3 undefended.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, what Theo is saying that there is a possibility of playing bishop c4, and then after d c4 take the knight. The saving grace is that then rook takes on f3.
Yeah.
Thank you, Aaron. Thanks for the posture check. Okay, so here is another thing. A move that I haven't considered but might be interesting. Why don't I just take on h5?
With the idea being,
The idea being that if black takes with a rook, then and if white takes with a pawn, then there is rook g7, and you know the attack is basically neutralized.
yeah. And if white takes with the rook,
And if white takes with a rook, then I can play e5, and I'm threatening to take on g4.
mm-hmm. Yes,
Okay.
exactly. This is not an easy move to make, to capture the trade pawns in front of our own king where white is attacking. So I think your initial instinct was really good that if you could, you wish you could block it. Just push
Yeah.
and try to keep those pawns on the board. But because g5 is hanging and that concrete line doesn't work for black, we have to take it. Taking is better than allowing the capture. So the
Agreed.
h
No,
file,
no. I think what Theo said in chat is we can't allow it. If we allow it, we're dead. If we
exactly.
open the H file, forget about it. And,
Yeah.
it's game over.
Yes.
Okay,
Very good
so,
job.
all right, so that,
Interestingly, this was played, of course. Jovovich now had to react whether to take back with the pawn or with the rook. He took on h5 with the rook. I just wanted to show for a brief moment that if g takes h5, a move that you were looking at earlier now, once again, makes quite some sense. And there's no more h takes g6. So which idea of yours do you think is now stronger than it was before, since there's no capture on g6 anymore?
we're talking about rook g7.
Rook g7 is one way of dealing with this kingside potential attack of whites. I think rook g7 is the safest, but interestingly enough, the other rook move that you said, rook f4, is also
Yes.
is
Yep,
also a
yep, yep,
strong
yep.
option as it cuts the queen. So it allows the check, but the rook alone is not doing anything. So you either allow the check, saying that the queen will not participate after king h8. It's just one piece attacking, which is nothing. Um, or you play rook g7, which is bulletproof. It it does the bulletproof, and you can use the g5 for your own
Yeah.
attack. Very good job.
Okay. So what did Lubavitch? Lubavitch took with the rook.
He took with the rook,
Okay.
and that means we need to think now from black's perspective again. So Viktor Korchnoi with the black pieces.
Okay. Well, there is this famous. Good night, Sapper. Thank you for joining us. I am always having a good time with you guys. So thank you. And yes, I always have fun in also these
Thank you.
sessions. Thank you.
Indeed.
Okay, so all right. Interesting thing in this position is that white actually doesn't have that threats,
Hmm.
but okay. So what do we do here as Viktor Korchnoi? We can play e5, which is a forcing move.
Hmm.
Okay, that has been on the table for quite some time.
Yeah.
And given that rook is on h5, that's nice, especially since there is no option of playing rook g5 here, because of this knight on e4 is really a monster.
Hmm.
All right, so e5 is one option, and that's a very strong move. Okay, so the concrete line would be something along the lines of, you know, takes, or doesn't even need to take. You need to take if you're going to take on g4. So takes, but then there is this rook f2 option, and the pawn is threatening. You know, I like e5 a lot.
Hmm.
What other options? I mean, this rook f4 is still a perfectly functional move.
Hmm.
The problem with rook f4 is that, okay, yeah, you can't exchange them because of queen c3 and, queen a1. Okay. Right. And I'm going to stick with e5 in this position.
Let's calculate e5 again then, because it's a very sharp line.
Okay, so e5. And I think the best capture, if you capture with a pawn, this is pretty bad.
Hmm. Correct.
So that's not an option. If you take with a knight, then what I can do is, this is what I can take with a knight, and then you're going to take with a rook.
Hmm.
Okay, but then I can play rook f2.
Hmm.
And I should be better here, right? Though there is this. Can I play a rook? Oh, this is not good. All right,
What's the
let me
line that
tell
you're
you guys. Let me tell
calculating?
you what I'm thinking. So,
Yes.
if I play e5, takes, takes, takes,
Hmm.
rook f2. I can take on e4, and then I can give this check, which is annoying,
Which piece are you taking on e4?
with the rook, which is on
Are you
e5.
sure? Are you sure?
Oh, I'm not. Oh, I can just hold on. What am I missing? Oh, I can just take the knight and the queen is hanging. That
You
was the...
can take with the queen indeed.
Yeah, I take the
Yes.
queen on e4 and this queen is not defended. Jeez.
Can you play out those moves so that everyone can see as
Yeah,
well?
yeah, of course. All right, let me get rid of the arrows. So this is the line.
Hmm.
Oh, am I missing the pawn on e5? Oh no, rook is here.
Yeah.
And then here, and then if I take it here...
This was your initial idea to give up the exchange on e4, but instead of that, you realized.
Yeah, hold on. I don't need to take... Yeah, sorry, my bad. I can take here, and then this,
Yes.
and here, and I'm an extra piece.
Hmm. Yeah, that pin over the fifth rank is
Yeah,
very easy to miss. Queen takes e4,
it
wins a
is.
piece.
It is. It is. It is.
Very good
Okay.
job.
Okay.
So e5, as tempting as it is, unfortunately, is not a good line because of the pin
No.
over the fifth rank.
Yeah. Yeah, hashtag go. When she says, "Are you sure?" and she also Anna also, we should have a counter how many times, but this wasn't played in this this
This
line.
wasn't played in the game. But yeah, are you sure?
Yeah, but here is the thing that you know this is nasty because if we play knight e5
Hmm.
and then capture, get rid of that knight on c6, that queen e4 is a definite threat.
It is.
Yeah, Theo, your instinct is exactly right. Okay, so that
Mhm.
doesn't work. Now
So then what
what?
shall black play? Not
Now
e5.
what?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, okay. I mean, we can play it safe and play rook g7. And I'm not saying that's a good move. And as Theo is saying, there is always an opportunity to just sacrifice an exchange here.
Yes, that's something to consider. Rook g7, you said it may not be a good move. Why do you think it's not
Feels too
good?
passive in this position, which may or may not actually be a good thing. Just
Mhm.
feels passive.
Yeah.
Turkey is suggesting queen d8. Um, that may be a little bit, I mean, after queen d8, where does the queen go? And so that might be a little bit slow. I'm not sure. Chesnov is saying b5.
It makes sense to think about relocating the queen. I mean, it's all right on a5 as it puts pressure on the a3 and c3
Uh,
pawns, but we can also think of making it even more active. What would be a way to activate that queen if we are already thinking of queen moves, which may
okay.
not have happened in the game, but I'm just asking.
Okay, so we can. I mean, let me put it this way: how do we get queen back into action in two moves here? It's something like queen d8 to queen f6. So that's
Mhm.
another option. Another, well, on queen c7, it doesn't really. Queen c7 doesn't have anywhere else to go afterwards, and yeah, you know, I'm distracted. Hey, Karen at Chess Club. Hey, Karen, how are you doing? Thank you. Thank you for the big raid. That's very greatly appreciated. Karen, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Let's give Karen at Lanta Chess Club. Give Karen. Club. Give Karen a shout out. And welcome, readers. This is Nikola Learns Chess with the one and only great international master Anna Rudolf. We are watching a game played between Ljubomir Ljubojevic and Viktor Korchnoi. And thank you, Karen, again. Thank you, Mapdanda, for the follow. And yeah. So, all right. So this is a wild position. What's wrong with Rook F3 here?
What's the line you're calculating after Rook F3?
So Rook F3. Okay, so we take on F3 and then Bishop takes on F3.
Mm-hmm.
And then we take on F3 twice, then we take on D4 with a knight.
All right. So you're attacking the queen, and knight c2 is a threat as well. What shall I do?
Let me just think about it for a second. So what we're looking at is takes, and then presumably queen takes. Though that may actually not be the critical move. The critical move might be queen. No, we can't go to queen g5 because of the knight. And then after that plays this. The only problem with that sequence, which is quite pretty, and the queen is under attack, is... Oh, that's actually starting to be interesting. Where does the queen go? Okay. If we go back, then we can't go back to e3 because there is knight c2. It can't go to g3, can go to h3. I don't think going to h1 makes sense. So I think the critical move is to play queen h3, and then the question is, what does black do? And we have sacrifices exchanged twice, but we don't have a concrete mating threat.
True. So in best case scenario, black will take on c2 and capture the rook on a1 to win some of the material.
Yeah, and probably get mated over on the king side.
Because what's happening in the meantime on the king side?
Yeah, no, doesn't work. Okay, it was nice.
Let's play that on the board though, because it was an interesting line to calculate.
Oh yeah, sure.
If you want to show.
Okay, so what I was looking at was this, and then this, and then here, and then where does... Oh, this is actually... Where does the king go? Goes here,
go?
and then goes here, and then... yeah. I mean... I'm forgetting.
Who is winning? Who is winning and why?
Well, I think how is black gonna not get mated?
Yeah, white unfortunately that's the case.
Yeah, well, what do you play here? Good question. I mean, technically, black is better in this. I mean, materially wise, black is better, right? He has more pieces. Problem here is that how do we defend this position as black? I mean, this thing is hanging, not that it matters. But let's say we played this. Oh no, we can't do that, obviously. Right. That would be a very nice Bottas gambit. All right, so let's assume it plays something this, but then you have this particular sequence. And here, and
Where's the
can I
mate?
mate?
Where's the mate?
Here is the mate. Well, if he go, I mean, king has to go here, and I'm gonna take the queen. That's, I think, good enough.
Take the queen if he can even move, right? After bishop f4 check, you are going for the queen, but
That's a
where's the
mate. Yeah,
king? Where's
that's
that king
actually a mate.
going?
And if I do this, this is the mate.
Yes, well done.
All right, so yeah, that's not. Yeah, okay, knight f6 instead of queen c7.
Do we
Okay,
believe in this defense though? No pawns, no pieces around the black king.
yeah, that actually is a good move. Still, I mean, there must be a mate here somewhere. Yeah, and then yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah. Oh, yes, Dirk. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so beautiful line doesn't work, and we are. What did we? Okay, so we are here, right? Okay. So we said e5 doesn't work, rook f3 doesn't work. Then now what? Dirk, you want to play knight f6 here? I kind of always felt that that knight on a4 looks good.
Yeah, that e4 knight is really strong.
Okay.
And the move you mentioned earlier, you didn't like it too much, but guess who liked it? Korchnoi did.
Okay.
It may not be the strongest. When some of you guys mentioned the queen moves, so this would be one route, and the other route, quite typical actually in pawn structures like this, is that we try to bring the queen through the b file, because if we land on b2 now, that is an issue.
Gotcha.
So queen b6 is an option if we want to improve the queen. Rook g7 may not be the strongest. I agree with you that it looks passive, but it's solid.
Well,
It's very solid.
well, Korchnoi was called Peshkoyed by the Russians, which basically means he was this was his style. He liked to defend, and frankly, Dirk, I agree with you. I would probably, instead of playing rook g7, I would get queen on d8 or somewhere, like,
Yeah,
to activate the
something
queen.
more
I think
active.
that would be a better move, actually.
Ljubojevich decided to play knight g5, as this knight on e4 you mentioned is a strong piece for black, so he's
Yep.
aiming to trade it, and then we can also get rid of the g7 rook. Concrete line now begins because Korchnoi plays bishop e8. So let's think from White's perspective what's going on. Our rook is under attack, and that rook is protecting our knight.
Okay. I knew at some point Korchnoi is going to start defending.
Even if he had an active position.
Yes. All right. So, okay. So how do we protect that knight? We can play, I mean, you can play a silly move like an f4, which is not going to work. Okay. We can play, what else can we play, actually? I mean, we can ignore it, and as Dirk is saying, take on e6. And very frankly, knight e6 appears to be the best move in the position. You know, I like knight e6.
What happens after knight takes e6?
Okay, well, there is a fork. We can take on h5. Okay, and then we take with, yeah, the problem here is that knight g7 takes on g7, takes on h5, and the defensive structure that black has is kind of collapsing.
Very good point.
Yeah,
Indeed, you're taking the g7 rook because
yeah,
that's the one that's giving more shelter to the black king. We want that gone and hopefully get our queen to h6 if black takes on g7. So after knight takes e6, bishop takes h5, knight takes g7. Korchnoi ended up playing bishop g6.
yeah. It almost has to. Otherwise, that queen on h6 is pretty dangerous. Actually, queen on h6 is pretty dangerous right now.
Let's calculate that line.
Okay.
What's going on after queen h6?
Okay, so let's. So, okay, so it's white's move here, right?
Yeah.
So we take, and what does black do here? I mean, black can take here, but
Mm-hmm.
then how does he can go here? Then he's forced to play this because he has no other way to defend the mate on g7. Or I might be wrong.
So queen h6.
Yeah, so queen h6. So knight is okay. Sorry. Arrows everywhere. Thank
It's
you.
all right. Queen h6.
So what we're calculating here is this, this, this.
Oh, you meant with this mover, and I understand.
Yeah. Okay. And queen. We cannot defend on g7 with a queen, but we can play this. And that's actually not a horrible position for black. I don't. Yeah, it's. And guess what material is equal?
It is equal.
All right, something tells me that that wasn't the line they played.
It's an interesting line, and most of this would be correct if the engines wouldn't be smarter than us. Because I was very convinced too that this looks very scary. Um, but you're right. The rook can come back and defend. Funnily enough, after rook takes f2, the best move for white is this,
Oh, jeez.
allowing all these captures happening. So, for instance, if rook takes d2, white just wants to eliminate the knight and claim that the rook is hanging.
Okay.
But yeah, this is of course just the engine, because who would be even looking at a move like bishop f3?
Yeah. Thank you, Stockfish. Okay.
But in any case,
Can't I just
you're
take
right.
with? Oh, I can't. No. Oh, God. All
Um,
right.
the safer move,
Those
though.
darn
So
humans.
yeah, and because of this damn move of bishop f3 that Stockfish sees in 0.01 second, the safest move for black is rook e8, and this is unclear because on the e file we can also get into trouble. So rook e8, the knight is hanging. This is unclear. 000 according to the engine, but in practice anyone can win this.
Okay.
So instead of knight to e6, let's find a stronger move for white.
Okay.
And it's a human move, and Ljubojevich played it.
Oh, he actually played a different move as opposed to 96, right?
He played the best move, yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, the knight is under attack, so what do we do here? Okay. We can play queen h6.
Mm-hmm.
We can play knight f5,
Mm-hmm.
which is a little bit scary, but which drops the pawn, which black may or may not be able to take.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if we play queen h6, we're back into the same line, but we
Mm-hmm.
do not have any other option. Yeah, castling is actually, Adam, you're right. Castling is tempting to bring the other rook. The problem is there's queen a3. Um, okay, you can also play a purely defensive move like f3.
Mm-hmm. But
Uh,
knowing Ljubojevich and that he loved playing aggressive and
yeah,
attacking chess, what do you think he did with that knight?
okay. So what did he play? Queen h6?
No.
Probably queen h6,
Queen
but it's
h6,
actually it's a worse version of what we already showed.
yes. And what can black play here if we are already talking about Queen h6? Um,
Um,
if 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 this were the line, basically,
yeah,
we already looked at.
yeah,
You already mentioned that the rook can go back to f7. There's no more bishop f3 and whatever stockfish lines in
yeah.
case of
So
that
that
capture.
doesn't work.
Yeah.
So that we can eliminate that. That's a worse version of what we already kind of refuted.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens in knight f5? Takes, 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 and now what? And we are completely busted as white.
What's that position like? We need to see that position with clarity.
Sure.
So knight f5 takes rook takes.
And what do we do here? This.
What's going on here?
It's actually not that horrible.
Why not?
Because this if the knight moves, queen has this interesting check, and then it's possible to play queen f2 and kind of finally bring this rook over.
Mm-hmm.
So actually this is not entirely unappealing for white. Hey Tom, it's very good to see you. And so that's actually a viable option.
f3 is really strong.
Yeah.
Really strong, chasing that knight away, giving room for the king, then bringing the rook. Very good job.
Yeah. Okay, so basically that means that this is no sorry that this is actually the best move in the position.
Knight f5, and Ljubojevich played it. Indeed,
Okay.
taking twice we already have seen is not really good for black. So Korchner tried to play differently. He goes queen c7.
Okay.
What do you think Ljubojevich played here? Question to our audience too, of course. It's not only Nikola who has to
Oh,
use all his brain
oh,
cells,
yeah. I would castle.
and that's what Ljubojevich played. Whether it's good or bad, we shall see. No, it's good. It's good. As you said, you need to bring the rook. So the game cannot be won with that rook standing on a1. As scary as it is with this pawn structure, the doubled pawns, an isolated pawn on a3. Well, we need the rook. We need to bring the rook to be able to give mate. So black goes back to a5. Very logical, because now that pawn is hanging. What's
Okay.
next?
Well, we can play it cool and play king b2.
Mm-hmm. And that's what he played.
And that's an obvious move. And the other options are to start giving checks. But yeah, it's yeah, okay.
So if black gives a check on b5 or b6,
We go on a2, and we're actually in good shape.
very good. Then we stay there close to the a
And
pawn, using
and
it as a
guess
shield,
what?
and we
The
protect
white
it.
king is safe now.
It's safe. But Korchnoi says, I will still try to tickle it, and he's aiming to bring the rook over to b6 or a6 after a knight jump. So what do we do here?
Okay. Well, he needs three. He needs quite a few moves to swing that rook over.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually have a little bit of time.
We do have some time.
Okay, we can actually play f3 here. A
Mm-hmm.
thought. Uh, we can be obnoxious bastard and take on c4,
Uh-huh.
which actually looks like a pretty appealing move. So let me draw this. Oh, come on. So we can play f3, we can play bishop c4, and if black doesn't take, then we can, put the bishop on b3 and play a4, and we're in a pretty solid position, actually. On top of it, we can then go king a1 and bishop a2, and it's, haha, we're defending. I'm not saying it's good, it's just a thought.
So what do you think black should do after bishop takes c4?
Okay, so bishop takes c4 is an interesting question. Well, black can take on f2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He can play rook e6, which actually is not a bad move, though. Well, it actually is interesting.
So bishop takes c4. What shall black do in that position?
All right. So this is incidentally Anna signaling that I'm missing something. So what am I missing?
Yes.
Okay. Oh yeah, of course. He can take the knight on d2. He can take the bishop on d2.
The
In which
bishop on
case
d2 with the knight,
we
yeah.
are muffled a piece. Okay, my bad. Okay.
Yeah. Funny enough, it's we blundered this, but even after blundering it, white can get away with the blunder if you play bishop a2, because that keeps the pin so that the black knight doesn't have where to go. But this is just a mess. It's about
Yeah.
equal.
Okay.
So instead of this mess, let's just play a safer move. Instead of bishop takes c4, what other bishop move would you consider?
There is obviously bishop f3.
Yep, and that's what Ivanovich played.
Yeah.
It's a very straightforward move, just once again trying to get rid of that strong piece. Another move would have been f3, which you mentioned too, to see where does that knight go. Also just as good or maybe even stronger.
Okay.
This knight is the strongest piece of black, and this has been the story of most of this middle game. So white
Yeah.
just wants to make sure it has to leave the e4 square. f3 maybe is even stronger, but bishop f3 was played in the game. And now Korchnoi played a very interesting move, which shall be discussed whether it's good or bad. Knight to e5.
Ouch.
What's
Okay.
going on here?
What is this? So he's basically, huh? That's actually a nasty move.
Why is it nasty?
Well, nasty move is that. Hey, Shrofi7, thank you for the rating of the party of 10. Thank you, my friend. Very greatly appreciated. Welcome, Raiders. This is Nikola Lawrence Chess with one and only great I am Anna Rudolf. And this is a regular feature on this channel. We normally do this on Wednesdays at 5. Because of PogChamps, we are doing it on a PogChamps off day. We're watching a game, we're analyzing a game between Ljubomir Ljubovic and Viktor Korchnoi, played in one of the Linares tournaments in 90s. This is almost like a force mate, Anna, right? I mean, if I take, thank you, Adentis Fortuna, for the follows, rook b6.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is a rather beautiful mate.
It is.
And if I move the king to a file, then we have this. And
so if the king goes to a1, queen...
or you can go to a a2, which may be better.
Yeah, so you gotta defend the a3 pawn with the king.
Okay, so we can do
if king
this.
a1, queen
Sorry,
takes
my
a3,
bad.
but if king a2, yeah, exactly.
And then this, and we're dead.
Well done.
Yeah. Yep. No, that's so we so we can't take on e5. That's actually a very nice move. But oops. Okay.
What do you think Ljubojevic thought about that? Let me also promote this line because it gets lost.
Yeah.
And
You're welcome,
Bishop.
Matt Lapisdaken. Thank you for joining us. Good night. Okay.
Good night. Thank you for joining.
Yeah. All right. So knight e5. What do we do here? We can't take. And this is still nasty. It would be nice if we could play rook a1, but we can't. Because we're going to lose the bishop on f3.
Mm-hmm.
Or one of the bishops, because queen is defending them both. We can't take. Okay. I mean, we can always take on b6 and sacrifice the queen for two pieces, the rook and a piece, but that doesn't appear to be appealing. Huh. If we move the knight, the bishop on f3 is hanging.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Arangol. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you. So I was thinking along the lines of playing rook e7 and then taking on d5, and then there is no check on b6. The problem with that leaves this gentleman undefended. And if we take on e4 first, then we're going to get the same mate as we have just seen. Actually, do we have a mate there? We don't.
Which line?
Okay, hold on a second. If we take on e4, then queen b6, queen a2, queen rook a6, bishop c1. We are holding, are we?
We are. Because you eliminated the knight that was supposed to give the check on c3, right?
Ah, okay. Good. All right, so we're taking on e4. What's the counter? What does black do here? Okay. Bad Cave Joe is saying that there is an option to play rook b6 and then queen b5. Yeah, that might be the problem. And then if we play bishop c1, we get mated on b1.
So let's calculate that position.
Mm-hmm.
What's the defense there after queen b5?
So takes rook. Oh, hold on. Oh, okay. So takes a rook b6, king a2, rook b5.
Yeah, queen b5, threatening mate on b2.
Okay, or and we cannot play rook b1. We can give a check on d5. Right here.
Because that would deflect the queen. If black takes, then there's no more no more threat of mate.
Oh, shut up, Alexa. But black doesn't need to take it, right?
Black doesn't need to take it, so where can black go with the king?
All right, say h8. And then what do we have?
Good question.
Do we have anything? I don't see a way to defend the mate on b2 or b1, both of them, right?
So bishop takes d5.
Oh, but we can take on e5. Duh. Yep, and we're gonna mate. That's the line. All right, beautiful.
Yes, well
That's
done.
the line. Gotcha.
Can I play those moves out?
Gotcha. All right, so let me show to everybody. So this, actually, do you mind if I just play this?
Yeah, please play those moves out.
Play this, check. And if he takes, we have this.
Just the tempo we need to defend.
Yeah, and if he doesn't take, plays.
Also, by the way, after queen takes d5, I'm just noticing that there's maybe a somewhat stronger move that I also missed.
What is gambit? Thanks. Yes.
I also missed it because we only needed to defend, so it was like, okay, the queen leaves, it's enough.
All right, so where does this king go? King can go, if he goes here, we're going to take on e5. If he goes on f, oh, no, it can't go that far. If he goes queen f8, we're going to do this. He's going to get mated here.
So the king has to go to e8.
Okay.
And there's a beautiful move in this position.
Okay.
A very nice move. That's also an option, of course, to deflect the rook from the b file.
Okay, but that's not.
But there's an even stronger one. It's not bad because we don't get mated and we win time. But there's an incredible move here.
Okay.
At least I really like how it looks.
Okay.
Can you guys guess it? Can Nikola find it?
What am I missing? All right. I don't see a beautiful move. I might be... let's see. I mean...
It's not a forced mate or anything. We need to make sure we don't get mated, but it's in a very pretty way that we make sure we don't get mated. Gotcha. And we continue our attack later.
Okay. All right, so there is a mate on b2, and if on b1, if we do this, we cannot play rook b1, so that defense doesn't work.
Correct.
Knight d6 is not the move. I mean, bishop c6 takes with a pawn. Bishop f7 takes with a knight.
Slow down a little bit your thought process because you have the right ideas, but it just takes a bit longer
Okay.
to understand
So
them
what am
fully.
I
So
missing? All right, again. Ah, yes, bishop c6. Thank you. Yes. Yep, that's the move. Because
well
if he
done.
takes with a pawn, we have this lovely fork.
Yes, the pawn will be blocking the
Nice.
rook. Very good job. Bishop c6. This is an
Whoa.
incredible move. It can
Good
be
job.
taken with four pieces, all the pieces of black, basically.
Yeah. Whoa, that's cool. And if he takes with a rook, then we play this, and that's we are. It's game over.
Yeah, we can play rook b1 or even rook e1 since rook e5 is such a
Yeah.
strong threat that
Whoa,
black
that is
is
cool, Anna.
collapsing.
That's cool. You're right.
It's such a
That's a very
beautiful move.
beautiful move. It's far from obvious. That was
I
played
really
in the
liked
game.
it when I saw it. No, I wish, but after wait, where did Korchnoi deviate? He didn't give the check on b6, so it's only because of Korchnoi that this didn't happen on the board. But bishop takes e4 is the right move,
Okay.
and white is not getting mated, so everything that you calculated is the correct line because of the bishop c6 at the very end. That's the only move. So it's not only that this is such an amazingly pretty move, bishop c6, it's also the only one. So in that position, sorry, how can I go back there now? I don't see it. Bishop d5, king f8, queen h6, king e8. Um, so knight d6 would manage to save us from the mate and wins the tempo. But that position after rook takes d6, this is slightly better for white, but it's not a big deal anymore. Oh shoot! It has jumped.
Okay. So he
Um,
didn't play king a2, played king a1 at some point?
uh, no, no, no. Sorry, I jumped to the wrong position. Why is it jumping?
Okay.
Maybe it's because I didn't promote it. Sorry, this is the wrong one.
No
No, we are
worries.
looking at this very same one. Rook b6, king a2, queen b5, bishop takes, and if king f8, queen h6, king e8. I was just saying that here the only move is bishop c6. This is the only winning move. Because if knight d6, we do manage to escape from the mate, and the game goes on, but the advantage of white has basically disappeared. If anything, it's a slight advantage, but not decisive anymore.
Okay. Wow,
So
that's a great game, Anna.
thank you.
Good night,
I
Rodman
went,
Ron. Thank you for joining
good
us.
night, good night. This bishop c6, I think, is one of my favorite moves of all the games I've seen recently.
Yeah.
Um, of pity it didn't happen, but it didn't happen because I'll show you now what happened in the game. Bishop takes e4 is the right move, and Korchnoi took it. So now we need to find the right continuation from here.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. All right. So we are here. Okay. So he took it, which makes sense. Okay. Um, all right. So if we take the knight, we're going to be in the same pickle that we were before, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we won't have those nice lit knight checks. Hmm.
What's happening if we take the knight? So that's the main question.
Okay. So if we take the knight, there is this option, right?
Yes. What happens afterwards?
And afterwards, if we go on c1, we are mated, so we need to play king a2.
Yeah.
And then
And
there
there is
is
queen
rook
b5.
a6.
Sorry. Uh,
What?
King a2,
Sorry,
queen b5,
my
right?
bad.
Yeah.
All right, so we're giving the check on b. So, okay, let me start from the beginning.
Yeah.
Takes, takes.
Yes.
Obviously, this is a mate, queen a2. And the move here is queen b5. Right.
Yes. And what can white do here?
And what white can do is he can't really defend the mate, but I mean, white can take here, which actually may still be winning.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, probably is still winning.
Why is it winning? Why do you think so?
Well, if so, take with a queen. We have a passed pawn here. We play bishop e3, or we can even hold on. Do we have a mate here? Let's see. I mean, we can give a check. All right, I've gone too far.
So the only way to prevent mate here is,
To take the rook.
yeah. And the question is how do we evaluate this position?
Okay.
Queen takes and Korchnoi took back with the pawn. Queen
Oh,
takes
the pawn.
b6. Queen takes b6 is perhaps better, by the way. But in both cases, how would you evaluate this? Who is doing well?
This is ugly for black.
Mm-hmm.
And why it's ugly for black is what if we play bishop h6?
Mm-hmm.
We are threatening here and some nasty stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I would obviously prefer to play this position as white.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
White has a decisive advantage. So it's just this psychological barrier that sometimes we need to get through, that the queen is so valuable. No, it's okay sometimes to give up the queen because we have a rook and a very strong knight for it, and the c5 pawn is still on the board. So how can we make sure it stays on the board?
Okay, so okay. Well, the queen actually has nothing against the king, so we can even play bishop f4.
Yeah.
And that passed pawn is actually going to win the game for white.
And that's what happened. Bishop
Yeah.
f4, the strongest move. Bishop h6 is tempting, but that does allow black to capture the
Capture the
pawn.
pawn
And
e5. No. Yeah.
so bishop f4, black played queen to a4. How shall we react to this?
I would keep that knight and just put the knight on d4.
Put the knight on d4 to protect the pawn, right?
Yep.
Would you do it now
Yeah, I
or
would give.
with a
You
different
can.
move
I
order?
think you give a check on d8 first
Exactly.
to get the rook in position, then play knight d4, and that's pretty close to rather easily won position for white.
Very, very well spotted that
Yeah.
knight to d4 safest, everything is protected, but giving the check first is the most precise so that you make sure that the rook is active and
Okay.
is not sitting here behind. Very well done. Check and knight d4. The game is basically approaching its end. There's no defense here for Korchnoi. He tried e3 to open up the diagonal of the bishop. It's a worthy try. It's a worthy attempt. But basically, Yuvayevic just said, I can give this check. And after king f6, he now took the pawn, not minding that black can take on c2. Because what's going on here after bishop takes c2? What would you play, Nikola?
Okay. So this is. I mean, this is an ugly position. I'm playing. I can. Let me see. What are the mating threats here? I obviously don't want to check, and in all honesty, black doesn't have anything here because he has to check on b3. I'm going to play king b2, and goodbye, so long, farewell. There are no. I mean, the only potential threat is to play bishop b1. But then if he plays bishop b1, I'll play king b2, and it's still nothing.
Hmm.
All right, so the threat here is to play g5, and where does that king go? If he goes here, I can just push, push and baby here.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and if he goes back here, I'm gonna give the check,
Hmm.
and then the king needs to go on. King needs to go to f8 or wherever, and I have some nasty checks here that are pretty scary.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well done. G5 is one of the most forcing lines. And as you said, the king doesn't have many options, but you can follow up with a check.
Yeah.
Um, Other options, because G5 is one of the good moves. As you said, basically we just need to establish that black doesn't have a threat, because if this is just one check and then we place the king on b2, no more attack for black. So G5 is good. Rook f8 check is good as well. That's what Yuboyevich chose in the game. Both are just as strong. Both of them are winning.
Okay.
Korchnoi went to e7, and now rook f7 check. King d8. What would you play here for white? Many good moves, but I'm just curious which one would you choose?
The easiest move is bishop d6,
Nice, nicely
and that's
done.
the mate in the next move. Turkey, I
Beautiful.
think if it plays bishop g5, that bishop is undefended, or I may not might have misunderstood, my friend.
Here, yeah,
Yeah,
we don't really need to give up pieces. G5 or
yeah.
rook
I
f8,
mean,
both
we'll
of them are
probably
winning.
be still be winning.
Maybe,
To be
maybe,
honestly,
but not necessary.
just play e7, and it's still one position. But yeah, this
Yeah,
is mate in the next move.
it is. Korchnoi still gave a check. How do we react to that?
We already looked at that. It's king b2,
Exactly. King b2,
and
not caring about that bishop
yeah,
at all. And he played one more move before resignation. Bishop back to g6. What would you play here, Nikola?
yeah, geez, okay.
He's trying to save it. But after the next move of Ljubojevich, Korchnoi resigned. So
Okay, let me think for a second. We can't move the knight for obvious reasons.
I don't know that.
Oh, Alexa, give me a break. Um, we can do it. Anna's gonna love this move. Just take the pawn on b7.
Exactly, free stuff. And free mate, because it's one thing that black is preventing the mate now from this flank, but can he do it also on the other flank?
He can give away the queen, but that's not.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
exactly. Beautiful, beautifully done. Nikola, what did you think of this game and what were your favorite moments?
I really liked this game. This game was. First, it was interesting to see Korchnoi in being this type of an attacking player, because that's his reputation is that he's more of a defender.
Mm-hmm.
Though I have to make one observation. I still remember when he actually played in 1982 his last match against Karpov, and he was already a
Mm-hmm.
little bit past his prime. And I
Yeah.
remember he didn't win that many games in that match, but he had won one game against Karpov in which he had a bishop on g6 and a pawn, and it was like dead middle game on d3 and was defending it, and Karpov didn't know how to handle it because it
Mm-hmm.
looked so weird.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like black had the upper hand after the opening. Something went wrong for Ljubojevich with the g4 h4 pushes, but even though black took the initiative there, he didn't manage to continue keeping it and
Uh,
keeping the advantage.
all right, Anna and I will agree to disagree on the subject of French defense, and we're not going to go there. Okay, this is interesting thing is that this straight from a theory became a rather uncomfortable position for white.
Yeah, here black is doing just fine.
Yeah,
It's
no,
not even clear where did it go wrong.
yeah,
Because taking on h5 is needed.
yeah. I mean, this is like one of our games in French, Anna, by
Yeah,
the way.
this rook g7, bishop e8. Bishop e8 for sure was bad though, allowing knight e6.
Yeah, agreed. 95 was a very nice move. It was a very tricky move.
Mm-hmm.
This was a very sharp game with both sides. And, you know, but the nicest move is the one that wasn't played. That's the one. I think the beautiful position is this. That's bishop
Yeah.
c6 here is an absolutely gorgeous move. I agree wholeheartedly with you, Anna. That's a very, very, very beautiful move.
I'm glad you like it too. When I saw this in the
it's...
sub variation, I was like, this is the game.
That's
is the game. This is the game.
Yeah. Yes.
Very good job finding all those lines, Nikola. You found most of them.
No, this was a fascinating game. Really was. This is why I don't play Vinaver, guys.
He was fine though. But then, yeah, after h5 g takes, as you said, rook g7 felt a little passive.
Thank you for
queen
the
b6,
follow-up,
queen b2. Queen b6, queen b2 was another option there instead of the rook move. But bishop e8 must have been the bigger mistake.
Okay, and you know, it was a game with both sides played well and both sides had chances. This bishop e4 and all the possible variations there, that was just amazing. And then queen b6 was, yeah, bishop f4 is one of those moves that, you know, and you need to basically keep the position together.
Yeah.
And honestly, after bishop c6, this, in which you have this scary looking queen and this scary looking bishop, and black has nada.
Nada.
Nothing whatsoever because of this knight and the fact that, yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you, Anna. This was very good game.
I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I hope that everyone in our audience too have learned something from the game, and I'm happy that you guys liked bishop c6 as much as I did.
All right. Thank you, Anna, again. It was always a pleasure. I have a couple of program announcements, and then we're going to have a quick raid. My next adoption match is against Thea Vidic of the Chiquitas. She wants to avenge Lara, who didn't manage to adopt me. So, though I have to say I showed up in the Chiquitas channel today, and they were telling that I'm half adopted, so I have half mothers. So I think I'm going to show up next time. I couldn't really talk, and I'm going to borrow a page from my dear friend Alessia Santeramo, who got adopted by Julian Lando, my dear friend, and immediately start asking for a car. So, so I'm going to show up in next Chiquita stream when I actually can participate more than I usually do, and I'm going to start, since I'm half adopted, I'm going to ask for a car. Anyway. So there is the next OFM event is still a match between Haufman and Morozovic. It's actually going to happen this coming weekend, the Labor Day weekend in the United States. And we don't know yet the time. The time is still, but it's probably going to be sometime very late at night US time. It's kind of difficult to coordinate Haufman. Haufman likes to play games in the morning, and Morozovic likes to play games at 2 a.m. And then you have multiple times. So I'll post it in my Discord and I'll announce it. But that match is definitely happening.
So this weekend, you said?
Yes.
Amazing.
Great game, Anna. Thank you again. I'm looking forward to our next session. And let's see who is streaming that we could raid right now. Let's see. Let's see who is actually, oh, actually Chiquitas are streaming. Perfect.
Excellent.
So you get to see my future opponents. Perfect. That's I think the right decision to make. And so let's see, and do tell them that there is a big difference between half adoption and a full adoption. I think it's Thea and Lara are playing, and today is Thea's birthday, so give her,
Oh,
wish her a happy birthday, and you will be in touch. And I will see you guys on Sunday. I'm gonna try to have another stream later this week, IRL permitting, and I'll announce the dates for Haufen match versus Morozovic on my Twitter page and in Discord. Bye,
all the
guys. Thank
best
you for
this
being
Sunday.
here.
All the best, and I
Thank you.
can't wait for the Hoyifan Morozovic match either.
And waiting for the raid to go live. The raid went live.